I'm Hannah from Singletrack WORLD. I'm here with Matt from Cairn Cycles to talk about this bike here, the Cairn BRAVE. Now, a couple of years ago, I tested the Cairn Adventure 1.0, which was a gravel bike with a motor. And I was like, oh, it's good, but I want something that can go more adventure, more off-road. And my prayers have been answered, because here we go. We've got 29 by 2.5 maximum tyre clearance. We've got a motor and we've got drop bars. So it's like a giant monster cross e-bike and all my dreams in one, really, isn't it, Matt?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
So why did you design it? Because it wasn't for me.
Well, no, not really. Obviously, it was for a much bigger audience than yourself, but it works out that in your favour. We basically saw the trend of gravel with bigger tyres and bigger tyres and bigger tyres. It was getting to the point where we had that like swap over between like 650B wide or 700 wide. And it was like, well, do we go the next step? And I don't think a lot of people would on acoustic bikes specifically. Because it's just too much to pedal, too heavy, too much tyre. And but when you add in an e-bike system, it's a no-brainer. Why would you not?
Yeah.
Basically.
So I've been riding around on this, and like you say, that big kind of monster cross with this sort of tyre without a motor, you kind of need to live in Mongolia or be really fit to justify having that amount of bike. But when you stick the motor on, then you can join up all the kind of boring bits, get them out of the way, and then be off-road again.
Yeah.
And so what we've got here is the drop bar version, but there is a flat bar version as well, isn't there?
Yeah, two bikes, same frame, same geometry, it's just a different handlebar, basically. The way that we've balanced the geometry is, well, there's a lot of maths and working it out, but when you have a wide flared handlebar, with quite a short stem and long kind of mountain bike style geometry, when you swap it out to a short stem with a wide handlebar, flat handlebar, the difference in the reach is about 5 mil. So you kind of balance it to work with both, and then it just comes down to your personal preference. What would you prefer? So
the flat bar version is only marginally shorter then than this, it's got quite a significant flare on these bars, which is comfy to ride off-road. So yeah, you can make that choice between the two. Yeah. This has obviously got a rigid fork. Mm-hmm. Could you add a suspension fork?
Yeah, so suspension corrected, not quite to like 100 mil, but once you've got it's about sagged 80 mil fork. So it's kind of bridging that gap between like a cross-country bike and a gravel bike, with gravel bikes having that sort of 40 to 60 mil. So yeah, it's a 470 axle to crown. So it's like a sagged 80 mil.
So you could add a little bit more comfort in there if you wanted to for big long journeys, which you could certainly do with all the rack mounts, which we'll come to in a moment. Let's talk about what's here first. So this is the one that I've been test riding. It's got 29 by 2.35 tyres on it, although you could go up to 2.5 if you wanted, yeah? Yeah,
2.5 max if you wanted to. A little bit bigger, but 2.5.
2.5 is the official line. Okay. And then we've got SRAM Apex brakes group set and a Shimano E7000 motor. Now, that's not the brand new Shimano motor, but you do have reasons for using this one, yeah?
Yeah, so the reason is the delivery of the torque. EPA is amazing, as everyone has been finding out recently, but because it's got a 90 Newton meters, yeah, okay, you can adjust it, but it's just too much on a rigid drop bar bike. Mm-hmm. It just plows you into stuff and you just got no control. We did test it, to be fair, and it just wasn't very comfortable. So the reason for it was, obviously one is costs, but the other one is, because it only got the 60 Newton meters, just a better delivery, and because of that reduced amount of torque, combined with the big 600 watt battery, you just get loads of range, loads and loads of range. Whereas on the EP8 with the higher torque, even with a big battery, the range is not really that different. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just a bit more manageable than the EP8 system.
Yeah, you don't want to be winch and plummeting on a bike like this. You want to be going for miles and miles. And I can attest that I have not managed to run out the battery on this in a single ride. I've done some long rides on it and still come home with like 3 bars.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason for that, I would say, would be that I've mostly been riding it in eco. And there is a slight difference between getting this in the drop bar version and the flat bar version, because Shimano have not made, get your pens out the ready and start complaining, an actuator to shift between the assist modes that fits on drop bar, have they?
Right. So ideally they would like you to buy Di2 so that it's compatible. But obviously when you're making a cost-conscious bike that's available to a broad market, yeah, there's some complications with making it shift. So on the drop bar version, you just have to use the computer and the button. Yeah. It's a little bit fiddly because you have to go up to come back down again. You have to keep
going up, yeah. So for those that are watching, you go into eco, and then you go into trail, and then you go into boost, and then you go into off to get back to eco again, which if you're part way up an incline, you're getting slower and slower. That is difficult, and it is a small button that you've got to get, and you might be wrestling with the trail at the same time. So it's not ideal. However, what I've done with this is I've ridden it in eco almost all the time, and then I've also modified the assist that you get from the different levels. So it comes like a standard eco trail boost, and you can use the Shimano eTubes, very random app, name for an app, and you can use that to adjust the level of assist that each gives you. So I've now got it in a kind of eco, trail minus and trail plus. Although it still says trail and boost. And that means, like you say, you don't need that big rush of power when you're in the drop bars.
So using the app, evens it out. You can just adjust it all. And yeah, it's not ideal. We'd like to improve it. We've obviously fed back to Shimano. And to be fair, anyone that has a drop bar Shimano bike in this kind of setup has the same problem. So it's not just ourselves. But yeah, if you know how you want to ride and what you can do, you can use the app to adjust it, just like most e-bike systems now. But yeah, it just means it's a little bit fiddly. Ideally, Shimano could just make it so that you went back down when you press the button instead of off. But moan over.
But as we said, there are 2 bikes, and to some extent I think that the more experienced rider that's probably got the legs and the confidence to deal with that sort of nuance is going to be riding the drop bar bike. And then you've got the flat bar bike as well, which has got the shifter that then gives you all the up and down that you could want, and also I believe a walk mode in that bike as well, isn't it?
If you hold the button, you have a walk mode.
Because you don't get a walk mode with this. So yeah, there's 2 bikes, and for me that's like the main kind of functional difference between them, is that how you can use the assist on the motor, and then obviously the fact that it is a flat bar bike versus a drop bar. So
otherwise the system's the same. So it's the same battery and motor, you're getting the same system, just that little bit. And to be fair, in our testing, we're obviously doing big long rides, short rides, and it didn't matter where we were really going. We were always stuck in the same mode. There was occasions, okay, the terrain that you've ridden is probably very different to the South Downs. But yeah, you either find there's like, what hill's coming, so you can prepare and you can get into trail or boost mode. Or yeah, I just found myself using trail mode. The Shimano trail mode is excellent. Gives you that really good balance between range and power and support. So yeah. So this one that I've got here is a pre-production model. So there have been a few changes from this, and basically it looks very similar when you get the final model, which is due in December. Is that right? Yeah, December this year, not next year.
So it's always comforting when you test something and you think, oh, that could be different and that could be different, and then the person that's made it goes, oh yeah, we've changed that already. So I noticed that on this particular model here, there's a bit of a gap around here, and you've made some adjustments so that there's not so much chance of water ingress through there, haven't you? Yeah,
so just adjusted the gusset here, so the battery sits lower in the gusset. So yeah, it will still get a little bit of muck and mud in there, but we've tried to improve it as much as we can. So.
Yeah. And then the other thing I noticed was that it is so capable that I was riding down stuff and going, I really should have a dropper post. And I was kind of getting off stuff, partly because I didn't have a dropper post and partly because I'm clipped in and I'm not very good at that. But you have changed the routing on here so that you can have a dropper post more easily, can't you?
Yeah, so basically it is on this bike, so it currently goes through the BB and up. But yeah, as you said,
you'd have to take the motor out.
You have to drop the motor out and everything, which is a bit silly. So yeah, it will just come down externally and there'll be a little hole like most mountain bikes these days. Yeah.
So nice and easy to add a dropper.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I'm going to step off camera briefly because we have some new, just in today,
Yeah.
racks, which I'll give you one. I'll give you that one since that one goes at the back.
Rear in your front. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is quite exciting. And I think particularly, well, for this, because it will make it more useful in more situations, but I think particularly for the people that are looking this as a flat bar bike, this is going to turn it into your long distance traveler or your child carrier, your supermarket bike. So we've got a front rack and a rear rack.
And rear,
and they are going to be made in the UK.
Yeah. So we won't go into too much detail about how busy the Far East is right now. But yeah, if you're trying to do smaller volumes of things like racks or bikes like we are, it's just tough right now. We don't quite have the volume for the big manufacturers. So we were just looking for alternatives, and the local company to us well, they're in Surrey, we're in Sussex, but
it's all down south from here. Yeah.
All south from here. Yeah. Are gonna put them together. This is literally, we got these this morning. Yeah, so this is the first time we're really seeing them. You're seeing them.
Yep.
But they'll be made in the UK, which is really cool. It's a good story. You know, bringing some manufacturing back to the UK is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hopefully we're going to be able to get them in for a good price as well. Don't quote me on anything just
yet. Okay.
Maybe 100-ish for the pair, but don't quote me on that.
So this will have a net on the front so that you could put your shopping bag and strap it on, or you could put your sleeping bag or your tents or whatever.
And it'll have,
it's about 15 kilos is going to be the tested weight. Is that 10 to 15 kilos?
10 to 15 kilos is our hope, yeah.
Yep.
And it will have a mount on the front for lights and things like that, obviously. So whether you want to run a light that's powered by the system or just your bog standard battery light, it will be able to mount on the front as well.
Cool.
So,
and then this one,
rear rack.
Rear rack, which one of my questions was going to be, can you put a child seat on it? And I'm told yes.
Yeah, it should be the right width and dimensions to support a child rack. And we're going to test it to hopefully about 35 kilos max. But Dan, our engineer, is going to scream at me because I've said that on the camera. So, but it'll be enough for a child seat at least.
Yeah.
So,
and a child, importantly.
And a child, of course, not just a seat.
So I was hearing that you're going to actually do your own testing of this and test it beyond what you would be like required to do by ISO, because the ISO doesn't test on bumps. Yeah. And you can imagine that people will be taking this or the flat bar version over a few bumps. Yeah,
so again, trying to find a test house that can test a rack to like real world standards is quite difficult. Currently the test is just loaded and then just moved about a bit, and it's not really a realistic test. So yeah, we're actually slightly thank you to our partner company, Hunt Bike Wheels, but we will be building a rig that will actually simulate a real world riding experience with the racks loaded. So yeah, they'll either be massively over engineered or you'll just be able to load them up really good.
Yeah. Well, so having ridden this around Calderdale, which for those who haven't been here, has lots of moorland rockiness and mud and grit, and then lots of steep descents, and then lots of disconnected bits. So there's lots of horrible steep 25% road climbs in between. This could totally have been designed for where I live, because there's so little that I can't ride on this. So basically, once I can't ride down something on this, I should be on one of your privateers anyway. So and then I can totally see as well the flat bar option could be a real great kind of sort of semi-urban, semi-rural family bike as well. It's instead of your second car.
Yeah.
Especially when you can stick the racks on it and do the school run and that kind of thing.
So kind of the start of this project, the kind of backstory to it was the rider firm owners, Tom and Pete, although very different people and wanted very, very different bikes, really they wanted the same thing that just did the other, like, different things. But it's really hard to explain, but they were both saying, I want 29er, I both want, you know, a big e-bike system and all the power and the torque that you get from it. But really the only thing they wanted was Tom wants a drop bar and Pete wanted a flat bar.
Right.
So yeah, that's exactly it. If you've got the flat bar, you could put some nice slicks on it, and it, you know, it's a great you know, durable town bike or city bike or whatever.
Oh, but you'd be missing out on the potential for adventure, I think, if you only ever rode it around the town. So,
hopefully, yeah.
So you've said a few times it's designed to a price point. So what is the price for this one?
So the drop bar is 2589. Yeah. Just looking slightly off camera to my lovely assistant. Yeah, 2589, and then the flat bar is 2189.
Okay, so that is a competitively priced e-bike,
hopefully,
certainly, and with plenty of functionality built in.
Yeah.
So if people watching are now like, oh, this is what I want, I don't want another car, or I just want another bike, they can pre-order now. Is that right?
Yeah. So we can take pre-orders. Obviously, not available till December, but yeah, we're taking pre-orders now. Cool. So.
And in this world of ever-changing prices and availability of bits of bike, then that could be a very smart move to pre-order and have a bird in the hand, or nearly in the hand anyway.
Yeah. Basically, if you get the pre-order on, that's what you're paying. Obviously, we can't guarantee that things won't change from now on, as the world is ever changing. But yeah, if you can pre-order now, then you'll get it at that price at least. Yeah. Cool. And we're on that. So.
Well, thanks very much for coming today. Any chance you could not take it back with you and I could just keep hold of it? Please? It's good for me.
Yeah, it's 2589.
Worth a try. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of seagulls, and then the seagulls feed the baby otters. Otters are like cuckoos. And neither of them called me out on it. I was like, neither of you called me out on this. Hours later, Chips didn't respond, and Amanda was like, I believed you. I said, I was talking otter bullshit.
Oh.